Here's a charming outdoor hack using air dry clay and a tin can from your recycling bin. I'm stringing up a metal washer and a metal shoehorn to see how they sound when they hit each other. I like it, so now I have a direction. I'm punching a hole into the top of the closed end of an empty tin can using a hammer and nail. Next, I'm stringing 2 long strings through the hole and pulling it through so the can sits about in the middle. Now I'm threading and knotting a bolt to the other side of the string, then pulling it towards the top of the can, ending in a double knot on the outside so the string stays put. Now I'm knotting both strings as one. To thicken up the top hanging string, I'm grabbing 1 string in each hand, then twisting the strings to the right while twisting the 2 strings around each other to the left. This creates a decorative rope effect. Turning the can open side down, I'm holding the hanging string straight up, then adding some air dry clay to the top of the can to create a mound around the string. Once the string is positioned in the center, I'm continuing to add more clay until the entire top resembles a dome. Now I'm applying clay to the sides of the can until it's completely covered, not worrying about how rough it looks quite yet. I'm adding more clay to the top until the dome shape matches up with the sides of the can, then smoothing all the clay out with water for a super smooth transition. I found it helpful to place the can on top of a spice jar so the clay doesn't sit directly on the table. Now I'm shaping some clay into 2 triangle-shaped ears. I'm adding some texture and water before joining the ears to the rest of the body so they will stick together better. Next up, I'm molding some 3D cat face features such as cheeks and a nose. I found it easier to create them on a flat surface first before adding them to the body. The puffy cheeks are being attached first, then the nose, both being smoothed out with water for a flawless join. Next, 2 front legs are being created by rolling a tube of clay, then cutting paws into one end and flattening them into a standing position by pressing the paws against the table. For added whimsy, I am molding the shape of a little bird, then attaching it to the top of the cat's head. Some floral wire is being pushed into the cheeks to create whisker holes, making sure I push in the final direction I want the whiskers to sit. If you get some cracking in the clay as it dries, it's super easy to repair. Simply add more clay, ending with water for a smooth transition. Now I'm sketching out how I want to paint my little cat. I'm drawing out the basic shape, then adding painted details with colors in mind. Inspiration is easy to find if you do a Google search. I'm going for a calico look, so perfection isn't required. Anything goes. I'm now pouring 3 tones of paint onto a scrap of wood to create a paint palette so they are all within easy reach. My chosen colors are soft white, black, and terracotta. I found it easier to paint the entire body a lighter base color first, then add the darker tones on top since dark colors have better coverage. Now I'm painting all the details in. The outlines are being painted first while the brush is fully loaded, then the inside second. This ensures all your outside lines are super smooth as opposed to creating a dry, jagged look. I'm using a larger brush to paint the larger areas with somewhat of a crosshatch pattern for a little more added texture. However, whenever painting the outlines, I make sure the brush has loads of paint on it, then slow right down to ensure the outlines remain super smooth. This gives your painting a more pro look. To make painting easier, you can also try holding the project in your hands, slipping a hand inside the can, and use your pinky finger in a dry area to better stabilize your hand when painting finer details. Before painting the tail, I'm bending a piece of floral wire on each end so I'll be able to hang the tail while it dries. The tail is getting coated in the base tone, then black and rust details are added on top. Next up, I'm cutting floral wire into tiny smooth pieces to create whiskers, then inserting them into the cheek holes. I found it easier to remove the whiskers to shape them first before inserting so you don't crack the clay. The little bird is getting painted a vibrant, bright aqua blue to contrast nicely against the cat. I'm adding speckles to the bird's back with the tip of a pencil dipped in black paint. And now it's time to rework the chimes. I'm pulling out the strings from inside the can so I can hang up the chimes. I tied the shoehorn and the big washer together first, ensuring they would touch each other when hung up by the middle of the string, then added more washers to create more sounds. And the final result is a whimsical cat wind chime that is cute, colorful, and sounds like a dream when a gust of wind hits. And you can choose to create any animal or pet of choice, with custom colors to suit your own home. I hope this inspires you to pick up some air dry clay and a simple tin can to create a dreamy animal wind chime of your own. Thanks for watching Hometalk, and see you next time.
I grabbed a corrugated cardboard box and a tin can from my recycling for this elegant home decor. I cut the cardboard about a 1/4 inch taller than the tin can. I wet a tea towel and pressed it onto the top of the cardboard to make it damp, not wet. This helped to loosen it so I could pull the top layer off and expose the corrugated part. Then I flipped it over and painted the top 1/2 inch and top edge antique white using acrylic paint. I flipped it back and painted the whole corrugated surface in antique white, and then I started blending with the other colors. I used a sponge to add black, gray, and I spray painted some silver for a metallic touch. I added more antique white on top and blended it all together using my paintbrush. Once dried, I wrapped it around the tin can, hot glued it together, and now I have a knockoff galvanized zinc vase, and you'd never know it came from the recycling bin.
We're starting with a toilet paper roll, and we are going to cut it down to about half this size. So I'm going to be taking an X-Acto blade. I essentially want to create like a flat piece, and I'm going to go around the inside. I want it to kind of fall here. And so I'm just going to continue to add glue around the surface. So I'm going to take a big heap of this, and we're going to just start layering it on. So we're going to do essentially the same thing, but I'm going to start by over the exposed base of the toilet paper roll. So I let this dry for about 24 hours. I have a sanding block. All right, now that we've sanded this down, we're gonna wipe it off. Here is the finished product of this high-end modern donut vase dupe, and I really love how it turned out. So I'm gonna start this project with a empty marinara jar. I'm bringing out Mod Podge, and I'm taking food coloring and putting the food coloring into the Mod Podge. I'm essentially mixing it all together to turn it into kind of a murky brownish green color. I'm getting out a cookie sheet and some newspaper, pouring the mixture, the Mod Podge mixture, into the jar, and I'm spinning the jar to try and get as much coverage on the interior of the jar as I can. I'm going to set my jar upside down, allow it to kind of dry and kind of let the excess drain out. The jars sit for about an hour. We're going to take all of our bottles and we're going to make sure that they're top side up, and we're going to bake these at 225 for about 45 minutes to 65 minutes. And as you can see, each of them kind of has a different tint, so you can really play around with the colors when you're mixing up your Mod Podge. It's beginner friendly, faux vintage decor on a budget.
We're going to need 5 soda cans. Make sure they are rinsed out and dry on the inside. Now we're going to go and take a razor blade, go and cut the top of the can. You can go and take a pair of scissors and then go and cut off the top of this can. And then go and cut off the bottom. Now go and clean any of this residue that might be in any of the cans. Now we're going to go and cover all of these with just some sort of cloth, and we're just going to apply a small amount of heat to it to go and flatten it out just slightly. Now let's go and draw some leaves and cut them out. Let's go and mark it down the center with a metal tool that we have. Let's go and cut some floral wire. Now let's take our glue and then go and stick down the wire onto this piece. Now let's go and continue to glue down these pieces. Now you can go and spray paint it, and after that green base is done, I'm going over everything with a black that is very light. So after this side is dry, now onto the other side, use green spray paint first, a small amount of yellow, and then at the edges of every one of these, use a very light amount of black spray paint. And these look so cool after they've dried. Now I'm taking the larger leaves that I have, putting them at the top here, and I'm kind of just going down from there and continuing to go and attach all of these leaves. We're going to go and take the wire and twist it around. Now go and fill up your metal tin or your planter, take the wooden dowel, go and bury it into the dirt that you have here. Just go and space it slightly. Now this is what it looks like after it is done, and it honestly looks pretty real. You wouldn't even believe that this was made with aluminum cans.
I dug this alcohol bottle out of my recycling bin. I'm going to remove the label from the bottle, and I'm going to use some alcohol. I'm going to get rid of the sticky residue that's left over. This is just an old picture, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it down to fit in the exact same spot where the label was. Take some matte Mod Podge Podge. I'm going to brush it onto the back side of the alcohol bottle. Just going to place my picture face down, and then I'm going to take a scraper and I'm going to smooth down the picture, removing any air bubbles. I let that set for a good 2 to 3 hours, and then I'm going to come in with some just plain white chalk paint, and I'm going to paint my entire back side. And then for the front side, I want to make sure I leave a little window here so we can see the picture in the back, and then continue painting around the entire bottle, leaving the window open. I let this chalk paint dry overnight. I'm going to go ahead with some transfers here from Dixie Belle, and I'm going to transfer some nice orchid designs here onto my bottle. I just placed a nice taper candle in the top for a nice candle holder. I just love this idea. There's so many possibilities. So I took these drinking bottles. I used some pages from a book that got wrecked, and I'm going to go ahead and Mod Podge them on. And then I'm going to paint around the picture. I'm going to cover in black wax just to tone down the white paint a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do some gold leafing just around the edges of the bottle. Put my taper candles in, and I am in love with this project. I took this Fleecy fabric softener plastic container, and then using an X-Acto knife, I just cut off the top portion. Next, I'm going to take some craft paper. I'm scrunching it up to create like a really rough texture, and then I'm going to tape it on where I need tape to hold in place, and just cut out my handle, and then wrapping that again in masking tape. When I'm done with this, I'm going to create my paper mache, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rip the envelopes up into tiny little pieces. Then I'm going to add just a little bit of water before I turn on my blender. So I lay out the Mod Podge, and then I just grab a handful of the slurry and I just spread it around onto my plastic container. I let it set for a full day, and this is my finished vase here.
First, we're going to repurpose a 1-gallon glass pickle jar, and then we have some decorative nautical rope. I'm measuring out vertical strips. Now, once I get all of my strips cut, I'm going to start using my glue gun to attach them on the side of the jar. And all I'm doing is I'm evenly spacing these out, and then I'll go in the middle of those sections and put a piece of rope, and then I'll do that, continue on until all 8. And I'm just going to start somewhere and kind of glue in a few places as I'm wrapping around, and then I'll glue the other 2, and it ended up being a stack of 3. Just to give it a finished look. It would look good staged and styled for many different seasons.
Run to the dollar store and go and grab a glass bottle. We are going to start off this craft with a cleaned out plastic bottle. So now we're going to line this up with the bottle. Go and draw a circle for where this is going to go and fit. Go and cut it out, put your glass into the hole. Now we're going to go and paint our bottle. Let it dry. Let's go and get these fake pearls and start to string them with some pipe cleaner, but leave one end unbended. We're going to go and poke some holes into our plastic bottle. Take the pipe cleaner, stick it in there, take the other pieces, go and stick them in as well. Hot glue where it meets with the pipe cleaner and also the bottle. Got some fairy lights, and we're going to go and stick them into where we have the center hole. Now let's take this base here, stick it in place. I am using cotton for this. Now let's go and glue these down. Use your fingers to go and poof it out. Go and use a fork to really go and poof it out even more. This cloud lamp is sure to light up any room, is so much fun to go and make, and is upcycled.
Take an X-Acto knife and remove the lid flaps. Take hemp rope and a hot glue gun to begin wrapping the rope around the box. Take twine and begin gluing it to the perimeter of the bottom of the box. Take balsa wood oval or circle shapes and paint them with black paint. Print words to be displayed on the side of the box. Cut them out and use pencil to cover the back of the paper. Then trace the font on the balsa wood. Use a chalkboard pen or a white paint pen to cover the pencil traced font. Use a hot glue gun to attach the labels to the side of the box. There you have it, an inexpensive way to create your own pantry storage for your home for less than $10.